What's the purpose of creating something from the ground up if it becomes unrecognizable in the end? That realization struck Bradley Henson with intensity as he sat solitary in his office, gazing at the quarterly reports. 6 electronic retailers. A brand he had cultivated over 17 years, evolving from a cramped backroom shop repairing radios to a thriving mid-sized chain spanning 3 states. However, recently, the grievances have been increasing. It's not about the products, they were exceptional. The essence lay in the individuals, the support provided, the overall journey. He had perused a critique the previous evening. A woman remarked that the employees at Store 4 seemed distant and unaccommodating, as if they had no desire to be present. Another mentioned that she was ridiculed for posing a straightforward question. Initially, Bradley had dismissed it. Perhaps they encountered an individual who was having an off moment, yet uncertainty began to seep in. He was unfamiliar with the majority of the team at the newer locations. As the company expanded, he decided to delegate the hiring process to the district manager, a man named Trevor, who appeared impressive on paper. Yet, an unsettling feeling lingered, prompting Bradley to take action. He would assume a hidden identity, not as a billionaire in a fake mustache with a camera crew, but rather as Doug, a recently retired HVAC technician navigating the world of electronics retail. He chose the shop that had received the most negative reviews, Store 4, located just outside Kansas City. He selected it due to the presence of a new manager and the distance from the headquarters, ensuring that he would remain unrecognized. Bradley removed his beard, colored his hair a shade of gray, adopted a subtle limp and donned a pair of thick glasses. He received a set of dentures that enhanced the contours of his jawline. The finishing details include a loose-fitting pair of jeans, a checkered shirt, and a worn baseball cap. He resembled a weary uncle, attempting to keep himself occupied during his retirement years. At 8:45 a.m. on a Thursday, he stepped through the sliding glass doors. The location appeared tidy, excessively pristine, clean and devoid of any impurities. A showroom that appeared untouched, as if time had stood still within its walls. A disinterested fellow at the register failed to even offer a greeting. A tall figure clad in a fitted polo shirt, his hair meticulously slicked back, approached with purpose. "It seems you are Doug." He refrained from extending a handshake. "My name is Mason, and I manage the store. Come along with me." Bradley trailed behind as Mason strode ahead, oblivious to whether he was still in tow. "This week we're experiencing a shortage of staff," Mason remarked. "After 2 call-outs, I needed to dispatch someone to Store 2 for coverage. Today, you will be accompanying Mia. Do your best to keep her pace steady." "Absolutely," Bradley replied, his voice low and deliberate. Mia, a vibrant young woman in her 20s, moved with agility and possessed a remarkable sense of patience. She provided him with an overview of the floor layout, instructions on checking, inventory levels, and guidance on addressing basic customer inquiries. Mason remarked later in the break room, his voice carrying just enough for Mia to catch his words. "She's one of the good ones. However, she lacks the toughness needed for a leadership role." Bradley cast a sidelong look at Mia, who feigned ignorance, yet she did. By mid-morning, it was evident in her eyes that Bradley had grasped the fundamentals. He remained close to Mia, assisting customers in locating cables and batteries while clarifying the return policies. She maintained her respect for everyone, even when they asked the same question 3 times. At approximately 11:30 a.m., an elderly gentleman using a walker entered the room. His oversized flannel coat hung loosely on him, and he clutched a handwritten list with trembling hands. "Excuse me, young man," the elderly gentleman called out to Mason, who happened to stroll by the entrance. "Could you assist me in locating a wireless router?" Bradley observed from a short distance, while Mason sighed in exasperation. "Excuse me, it's actually the very first aisle. There's a prominent sign that reads networking. You can raid, correct?" The elderly gentleman blinked, a look of bewilderment crossing his face. "Well, yes, You want me to hold your hand too," Mason said, his voice carrying over to nearby customers. A young lad stood beside his mother, gazing in astonishment. The mother leaned in and softly directed her son to follow her. Bradley sensed a gradual heat building within him. Mia entered the room. "Allow me to assist you, sir," she said promptly, steering the elderly gentleman softly toward the aisle. Mason strode away, grumbling under his breath. Folks really ought to quit treating retail workers as if they were babysitters. Bradley remained motionless for a moment. That's the essence of what the review conveyed. That was the subject of their discussion. This was not an isolated incident. This represented the essence of culture. Bradley completed his shift without a word. He assisted in replenishing the shelves. He observed Mason as he unleashed his frustrations on the team and disappeared for extended periods. He observed how Mia consistently supported everyone without a hint of complaint. 2 employees remained silent as customers entered the establishment. Connor, the assistant manager, remained fixated on his phone in the back room. That evening, Bradley found himself in a modest motel room gazing up at the ceiling. He experienced a wave of nausea. He had created this company with the intention of providing better care for people. The older man is well liked by people. Mia is well liked by others. At some point in his journey, he lost his sense of direction. That moment, he realized precisely where the decay had begun. The following morning, Bradley showed up prior to the doors opening. The parking lot lay quiet and desolate, save for a weathered red sedan resting by the loading dock. As he neared the side entrance, he noticed Mia in the driver's seat, her hands pressed against her forehead in a gesture of frustration. The uniform, polo, lay perfectly folded on the passenger seat, while her eyes bore a hint of redness around the edges. She remained oblivious to his presence until a gentle rap on the window broke her concentration. She leaped in surprise, then pulled it down, to the midpoint. "Are you all right?" Bradley inquired, his voice barely above a whisper. She blinked several times, then nodded with an eagerness that felt almost rushed. Indeed, it was simply allergies. Bradley chose not to delve deeper. "We have a mere 10 minutes. Would you like to stroll in together?" After a moment of uncertainty, she snatched her shirt and trailed behind him to the front. Upon entering, Mason was already moving restlessly near the registers, his fingers dancing over his phone. "Are you both considering coming into work at some point this week?" He spoke, his gaze fixed elsewhere. Mia remained silent. She made her way directly to the lockers. Bradley approached the register and tapped the screen to log in. Mason finally raised his gaze. "You've stepped beyond your designated area for practice. Your shift doesn't begin until you clock in. We do not compensate those who arrive early." Bradley simply nodded and moved aside, choosing not to engage in a dispute. Yet he observed Mason intently, noting his speech and movements with great attention. A tension coursed through the man's body, one that stemmed not from external pressure. It was mastery. Each word he uttered carried a certain gravity, yet it was not the sort that uplifted others, the type that reduced their size. At 9 on the dot, the doors swung open. A mother of 3 entered, pushing a double stroller with 2 toddlers, while a 7-year-old boy walked alongside her. She appeared weary, her gaze flitting between the shelves as if she were on a quest. Mia moved closer to her with a soft touch. The woman appeared relieved as she searched for something specific. "I'm looking for a portable charger that is compatible with my phone and possibly my tablet as well. Of course, I can present you with several choices," Mia replied. She gestured for Bradley to come along. A display was discovered near the back wall. Mia selected 2 distinct models and articulated the advantages and disadvantages of both. The woman paid close attention, her head bobbing slightly, as she gently swayed the stroller with one hand. Suddenly, Mason's voice pierced through the silence of the aisle. "Are you both intending to spend the entire day on accessories?" The woman recoiled. Mia remained silent. Bradley pivoted to confront Mason. She posed a question regarding compatibility. Bradley responded with a calm demeanor, while Mason arched an eyebrow in curiosity. "We do not operate as a concierge service. If they can decipher the contents of the box, they will be able to understand it." The customer remained motionless, mouth slightly agape. "We're fine here," Mia said swiftly. Wrapping things up, the woman made no purchases. She expressed her gratitude to Mia softly and departed without meeting her gaze. By noon, Bradley had gathered enough evidence to understand that the issues were not mere isolated occurrences. They were ingrained. Connor, the assistant manager, dedicated the majority of his day to the stockroom, feigning the task of organizing return shipments. At one moment, Bradley entered to discover him engrossed in a game on his tablet, earbuds, securely in place. Upon Connor's observation, he made no effort to conceal it. "So the newcomer, huh?" he remarked. "If Mason inquires, I'm currently engaged in inventory tasks," Bradley acknowledged with a nod and stepped back outside. There was no need for him to utter a single word. He had witnessed more than enough. Later, that afternoon, a young man arrived in a wheelchair, accompanied by his brother. They sought out noise-cancelling headphones. As Mia attended to another customer, Bradley stepped in to lend a hand. He slid the display case open, inviting the man to try on several models as he detailed their features. As they delved into the nuances of comparing two distinct brands, Mason suddenly emerged from behind them. "You can't access that case without the proper clearance," he stated matter-of-factly. The customer expressed a desire to try them on, Bradley remarked, maintaining an upright posture. Mason crossed his arms. "In that case, reaching out to a qualified individual would have been the right move. This case contains valuable inventory." Bradley surveyed the patrons. The younger sibling was now shooting daggers with his eyes. "Is there an issue?" he inquired. "No, sir," Bradley responded. "We'll look after you," but Mason stood his ground. "From this moment forward, refrain from interacting with anything that is secured, unless I give you the go-ahead." Bradley compelled himself to acknowledge with a nod. "Got it." The brothers departed, 5 minutes later, with nothing to show for their efforts. As the shift drew to a close, Mia perched on a stool behind the service counter, gently kneading her wrist. Bradley strolled over. "Are you all right?" She raised her gaze gradually. "I once found great joy in my time spent here." He remained silent. She pressed on. "I began at the store as well. Things were not the same in those days. Individuals supported one another. Managers cared. But since my relocation here last year, everything shifted." Bradley rested against the counter. "Mason pushes people to their limits. He encourages us to promote additional products, even to clients who obviously have no use for them. Failing to meet a quota results in reduced hours. He refers to it as performance-driven scheduling." Bradley's jaw clenched. "And no one utters a word." She let out a humorless chuckle. "We once did." The individual ahead of me submitted a grievance. 40 miles away, he found himself in a new location just 2 weeks later. Without a car, he decided to leave. Bradley gave a slow nod. "What's the situation with Connor?" He trails Mason closely, obediently adhering to every command given. Shows no concern for the fate of the others. That evening, Bradley lingered in his car, tucked away in the most remote part of the parking lot, the radio silent. He revisited Mia's words repeatedly. Scheduling based on performance metrics. Fear and pressure loom large, ridiculing clients, disregarding grievances. He had fostered an environment that penalized truthfulness and celebrated reticence. The following morning, he chose not to enter through the employee entrance. He entered through the front doors at exactly 10, clad in a crisp navy blazer and gleaming shoes, without glasses, without a limp, unmasked. Mason engaged in a lively exchange, with Connor by the checkout counter. He stood still when he laid eyes on him. Bradley continued on his path, unwavering. "Good morning," he stated, his voice unwavering. Mason's eyes fluttered open. "How may I assist you? Please assemble the team at this moment." Connor hesitated, taking a half step back. Mason paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Once more, Bradley spoke up. In just a few moments, the crowd gathered around the customer service desk. Mia lingered at the rear, her brows knitted together in perplexity. The cashier from yesterday rested against the counter, arms folded across their chest. Bradley confronted them. "I'm Bradley Henson. I established and currently lead this company." The ensuing silence was absolute. "For the last 2 days I've been among you, operating under a different identity. I've observed the way this store functions. I've listened to the accounts of how individuals are treated, and I find it quite disappointing." Mason's cheeks turned a deep shade of crimson. "Sir, I was completely unaware that Bradley raised a hand." He glanced around the room, urging caution. "The decline of this store stems not from sales figures, but from a lack of effective leadership. Customers are experiencing humiliation. Employees are burdened with excessive workloads, lacking recognition and often overlooked. That comes to a close today." He directed his gaze at Mason. "Your time here has come to an end. Your responsibilities are hereby terminated, effective immediately." Mason's lips parted, yet silence lingered. Bradley shifted his gaze towards Connor. "And you've chosen to ignore it all. You share in the responsibility. You have also reached the end." Connor glanced at Mason before shifting his gaze back to Bradley. "You can't just—" "I can," Bradley interrupted. "Indeed I am." Once they had departed the floor, accompanied by a regional HR representative who had shown up 5 minutes prior at his behest, Bradley redirected his attention to the team. "Changes are coming, significant ones. A temporary manager will be brought in from outside the store for the time being. Ultimately, I seek someone who has truly earned their place, someone who genuinely cares." He fixed his gaze on Mia. "I will observe attentively." Silence enveloped the room, a palpable tension hanging in the atmosphere. Bradley was indifferent to the sound of applause. He sought no accolades. He yearned for something greater. He aimed to reconstruct what he had nearly forfeited, beginning at this point. In the week that followed, Store 4 operated with minimal resources. With Mason and Connor absent and no one prepared to take on their responsibilities, the store lingered, in a state of unsettling uncertainty. The regional training manager, a straightforward woman named Laurie, assumed a temporary leadership position. She was resolute, straightforward, and emphasized that she wasn't present to coddle anyone. She sought results, yet with a sense of decorum. Bradley reappeared in his usual form, devoid of any disguise this time. He refrained from delivering speeches. He didn't linger. He took note. Mia took the initiative and stepped up on her own. She didn't seize control, but she quietly stepped in to fill the void, assigning tasks when others hesitated, addressing customer inquiries with confidence, and staying late to complete restocking duties when the evening shift was understaffed. She appeared to anticipate nothing in exchange. Bradley chose Friday afternoon to discreetly approach Laurie near the back office. "How's it going?" he inquired. Laurie rested against the filing cabinet, her arms folded across her chest. "They're shaken, yet unyielding. The team has been a bit unsettled since the recent changes, yet they are making an effort. The tall individual at Register 2, Tariq, has been inquiring about cross-training. Alina, the new addition to our team, is exceptionally astute. There's promise in what you have, it just requires some organization," Bradley acknowledged. "And Mia." Laurie's lips pressed together, not out of disapproval, but rather the kind of control one exhibits when aiming to avoid overemphasizing. Unbeknownst to her, she is at the forefront, guiding the way. That evening, Bradley invited Mia to join him in the break room once her shift was over. She showed up in her uniform, ponytail a bit tousled, notebook clutched tightly. "Take a seat." He gestured toward the modest table. She approached with care. He began, "I have a question for you." "What keeps you going?" She appeared taken. "By surprise, beg your pardon. There have been numerous justifications for departure. Poor leadership, lack of assistance, extended hours, yet you remained." She paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "The position was essential for me. I understand that perspective, yet I've observed others in similar situations who appear engaged, but ultimately disengage. You did not. What is the reason behind this?" Mia gazed at the notebook resting on her lap. "I appreciated the vision this place aimed to embody. I believed that with enough effort, perhaps it could return to that state once more." Bradley remained silent. He allowed her to complete her thoughts. "I've experienced positions where I was merely a presence on a timetable, where no one truly valued my contribution this place. Things were once not the same. I thought that if I walked away, things would only deteriorate further. I considered that perhaps I could assist in keeping it all intact. He nodded with deliberate slowness. She gazed at him, uncertainty flickering in her eyes, as if he had done more than just that. "I want to promote you," she said, her eyes widening. "To what, acting store manager? At this moment. I don't believe you are. You simply haven't been given the title yet." She clasped her hands firmly. "What if I make a mistake?" "Just go ahead and make the adjustments as you have been doing." She took her time to reply, then softly, "May I take a moment to reflect on this?" He suggested taking the weekend. "However, I am already aware of your potential." On Monday morning, Mia arrived 15 minutes ahead of schedule. She donned a black button-down rather than the usual polo, with her name tag affixed to a crisp lanyard. Initially, she remained silent, but as Laurie presented the updated schedule and training packet, she acknowledged it with a nod and accepted it without a moment's pause. The initial week of her leadership proved challenging, not due to her actions, but because the underlying issues were more profound than anyone had anticipated. On Wednesday, 2 patrons engaged in a fiery dispute near the checkout line, discussing a return policy. Tarek stood still. Alina attempted to calm the situation, yet the yelling intensified. Mia entered, composed yet resolute. "Sir, I need you to lower your voice," she said to the older man. She pushed ahead, he snapped. The young mother with a stroller shook her head in disbelief. "No, I did not. You remained outside." Bradley lingered behind an aisle display, observing intently. Mia kept her voice steady. "If there's a problem, I'm more than willing to assist in finding a solution. But we maintain a calm atmosphere here. Not directed towards one another, not directed at employees." The man stood his ground, and so did Mia. "If you wish to proceed with your transaction, we can certainly arrange that. If that's the case, I must kindly request that you exit." The man muttered under his breath, but moved out of the way. Later, Bradley discovered her restocking a shelf by the phone accessories. "You managed that quite effectively," he remarked. She confessed that she nearly didn't. "I believed I was on the brink of freezing." She offered a weary smile in response. It has a unique quality when you find yourself in the spotlight, with others, seeking your guidance. As the second week drew to a close, the team began to adapt. Tarek commenced his training in inventory management. Alina stepped in to handle social media outreach, an area that had been neglected for months. Bradley granted her access to the store's account, and in just 3 days, she shared a brief video, comparing headphones that garnered more than 1,000 views. However, not everyone was adjusting on Friday. A part-time floor associate named Dylan missed his shift for the 3rd time that month without any prior notice. Mia reached out with a call, followed by a text message. No reply. As he strolled in, a full 45 minutes behind schedule and munching. On a protein bar, Mia positioned herself near the back to greet him. "You're meant to arrive by 10, she stated calmly. "Indeed, the traffic can be quite a hassle. I haven't received a response to my previous message, and I'm eager to know if you'll be joining us or not. Here I am right now, aren't I?" "That's not how this operates," she stated. "There have been 2 instances of no-shows thus far. This is the 3rd, he said with a shrug. "I'm only here part-time. It's not as if I'm in charge of everything." As Bradley strolled by, he overheard the conversation and paused to listen. "Dylan," he remarked, "may I have a word with you in the office?" The child rolled his eyes but complied. Within the confines of the room, Bradley gently shut the door behind him. To be unequivocal, this matter transcends part-time involvement. It revolves around responsibility. When one fails to appear, the entire team bears the consequences. Dylan reclined in the chair. "It's merely a position, my friend. That mindset doesn't fit with this organization." "Is that it? I've been let go?" Indeed, Dylan stood there, taken aback but not furious, rather irritated. "It's fine, I have alternatives." Without a word, Bradley opened the door, allowing him to step outside where Mia was waiting. "There was no need for you to take that action. I was capable of managing it." He remarked that you managed it well. "I have just received confirmation." Saturday presented a unique set of obstacles. A couple entered the store in search of a laptop. They were gentle in their demeanor, attired in a modest fashion, and their speech carried a hint of an accent. Alina welcomed them with enthusiasm, detailing various models and assisting them in comparing specifications. As she made her way to the back to retrieve a sealed box, the cashier, a newcomer named Rick, leaned toward Tarek and murmured something quietly. At the far end of the counter, Bradley diligently restocked paper by the print station. He missed the entirety of the remark, yet one word lingered in his mind. A subtle yet clear insult hung in the air as Tarek's demeanor turned expressionless while Bradley strode directly towards Mia. "Join me," he said, gesturing towards Rick. In the office, he shut the door behind them. "Rick, could you repeat that for me?" Rick's eyes fluttered momentarily. "Nothing. I simply observed that Bradley didn't blink. There's no need for dishonesty." Rick cast a glance at Mia before shifting his gaze to his shoes. It was merely a jest. "No, it wasn't," Rick adjusted. "It was solely between Tarek and me." Without any intention behind it, Bradley shifted his gaze to Mia. Mia's voice remained steady, asserting, "You're the manager. It's your decision. This establishment maintains a strict policy against such behavior. Your time here is over." Rick parted his lips, yet silence enveloped him, while Bradley swung the door wide open. "It's time for you to go now." Once he had left, Mia sank into the office chair with a heavy heart. She remarked that he had been here for just a week. "I wasn't even aware of his last name at that point." Bradley nodded. She glanced at him, affirming that the decision was indeed the correct one. "It doesn't feel pleasant. That's not the intention." That night, the store had an unusual ambiance, not entirely restored, but fresher, more serene, as if something harmful had been removed, and the atmosphere was beginning to breathe anew. Bradley chose not to linger late. He departed moments before the doors shut, strolling by the lined shelves, the dimly illuminated end caps, the subtle drone of the HVAC system. He lingered at the exit, observing Mia as she assisted Alina in arranging a display. They were unnoticed, lost in their own world, devoid of any audience. They were simply creating with abandon, unburdened by fear, unshackled by silence, and free from the weight of someone looming over them. He ventured into the cool night, wrapping his coat tightly around him as he whispered a silent vow to himself. He would never allow someone like Mason to take charge of his floor again, not while he was in control. By the third week, the store had found its footing, yet the atmosphere remained charged. The departure of Mason and Connor created voids in coordination that could not be resolved swiftly. Mia continued to function in the capacity of acting manager, yet she had not embraced the permanent position. Bradley allowed her the freedom to make her choice. Yet the tension was evident in her frequent glances at the schedule printout, even as she engaged with customers. The group, while increasingly engaged and open in their interactions, was still navigating the challenges of genuine responsibility. Bradley made a spontaneous visit to the store just once during the week, without any prior notice. He lingered for less than an hour, pacing the room silently, taking in his surroundings. A gentleman clad in a navy jacket was receiving assistance from Alina in the vicinity of the printer aisle. Tarek, having mastered the inventory systems, was effortlessly updating the handheld scanners without any prompts, yet the weight of tension still clung to Mia's shoulders. On Friday, she reached out to Bradley directly. "I wish to have a conversation," she expressed. He encountered her in the back office that evening, well after the floor had emptied. The hum of the fluorescent lights overhead permeated the air between them. "I've come to a conclusion," she stated initially, rising to her feet, arms draped over the back of the office chair. "However, I would like to establish a few conditions before I agree." He nodded. "Proceed. I will accept the manager position. However, this is contingent upon implementing some lasting modifications. I'm not keen on playing the role of a bandage." He reclined gradually. "I am all ears. I am seeking a floor trainer role, specifically for someone dedicated to onboarding and shadowing new hires during their initial 10 shifts. At this moment, individuals are assigned to whoever is available. That's the way detrimental patterns proliferate. Fair enough. I would like to see a limit on schedule reductions. Eliminate the practice of reducing staff hours due to unmet sales goals. If someone is not meeting expectations, we guide them rather than neglect them. Accepted. I would like to have quarterly team meetings with a representative from corporate, rather than relying solely on memos, and I prefer these to be in person. Individuals must recognize the organization they are contributing to. Bradley lifted his eyebrows just a touch, yet chose to remain silent. That can be accomplished. Is there anything more? She added one more thing. It's essential to have a bilingual individual on the team, ensuring at least one person is available for each shift. This week we encountered 3 customers who spoke Spanish, and I was only able to assist one of them effectively. I will speak with HR. She finally sat down. Count me in. He reached out his hand. She shook it with confidence and determination. The formal declaration was made on Monday morning. Laurie made a short visit to share the news face-to-face, praising Mia's leadership and detailing the new structure. The team paid attention not out of obligation but from genuine interest. The ambience had transformed into a more stable, anchored presence. Although still experiencing some tension, the uncertainty had faded, and that very week, HR presented 2 candidates for the floor trainer position. Mia opted for neither option. She informed Bradley that they focused more on policy than on individuals. I would prefer to advocate for Alina. Though she has only been here a short time, she is already guiding others in addressing product inquiries. Bradley did not express any dissent. Alina received a promotion on Friday, yet she chose not to celebrate. She requested a printed list of all the SKUs that had been modified in the past month to ensure her training notes were current. 3 days later, the initial significant challenge arrived. A customer entered the store in search of a laptop suitable for her son's online classes. She possessed a financial plan and a detailed inventory. Alina guided her through the various options, yet the customer appeared to be feeling overwhelmed. Mia observed the situation and took action. She inquired if it would be beneficial to demonstrate some models in action. The lady inclined her head. In agreement. Mia guided her to the display units, opened one, and launched a browser window, showcasing its performance on actual websites. The woman observed intently before glancing at her list. I believe this one is beyond our capabilities, she remarked. We must not exceed 600. Mia refrained from promoting the upsell. I have another model to share with you, one that isn't currently on display, but I've personally utilized it for webinars. It falls within the budget. The woman departed with the laptop, a look of relief washing over her just 20 minutes later. From afar, Bradley observed the scene unfold. That was the sort of exchange that defied the confines of spreadsheets. It was trust forged in the moment. The following morning, Bradley convened an executive team meeting at headquarters. A group of district managers, HR leads and regional training coordinators convened in a simple conference room with a view of the city. He stood confidently, unencumbered by notes. Store 4 served as a pivotal moment, he began. A toxic manager was allowed to operate without restraint. We experienced dedicated team members reaching their limits while underperforming individuals merely floated along. I had to go incognito just to uncover the truth of what was truly unfolding. No one broke the silence. Such a situation must not occur again. From this point forward, each store will undergo a quarterly audit, encompassing more than just financial aspects. I seek anonymous feedback from staff, net promoter scores from customers, and a comprehensive evaluation of each manager's conflict resolution skills beyond mere sales figures. A district manager, a man in his mid-40s named Devin, lifted his hand. That will require some resources. After that, we assign them, Bradley stated. The HR director leaned forward, asserting, we're not scaling dysfunction. What is the situation with stores that are not meeting expectations? Should we recognize ineffective leadership? Are there sufficient internal candidates available for replacement? We certainly do now, Bradley responded. We elevate talent from within. That's the story of how Mia came into our lives. A week later, Store 4 welcomed its inaugural complete delivery shipment according to the new schedule. Everything on time, every pallet accounted for. The supply chain representative dedicated an additional half hour to guide the receiving team through a new scanning protocol. Mia never sought assistance. It was presented to them. That evening, in the break room, Mia faced Alina as they went over the revised training checklist. Tarek stood in the doorway, casually sipping from his glass of water. "You know," he said, "this place doesn't feel like work anymore. It has the essence of a collective." Mia took her time before replying. "We are making progress." Bradley made an unexpected visit one final time that month. He paced the room, greeted everyone, inquired with curiosity. Customers received warm welcomes. The team was working together. A fresh addition to the team, a young woman named Sophia, was effortlessly assisting a couple in comparing tablet models. He spotted Mia at the rear, fine-tuning a setup of wireless speakers. She stood tall when she caught sight of him. "I wasn't anticipating your arrival today." He expressed his fondness for being unpredictable. "How is the new team faring?" She mentioned that she is still learning, yet they are attentive, and their concern is genuine. "That will suffice for the moment," he acknowledged with a nod. He spoke softly, indicating that Store 4 would become our new standard. "We are redefining the essence of effective leadership." Mia's expression remained neutral, yet her voice carried a calm assurance. "Excellent. Then let us maintain our position." Bradley stepped out quietly, moving past the shelves and the entrance, into the warm embrace of the late afternoon sun. The sign above the store reflected the light, showcasing a brand. Name he had once dreaded was fading in significance. At this moment, it regained its significance.